Phil, would you like to fill us in on today's topic?
After much discussion, we managed to settle down on the topic of puzzle games and brain teasers. These guys wanted to. What did you want to do specifically? Something that I'd never even played before or heard
Point
of
and click
before?
was Antoine's suggestion, yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
there we
point and
go.
clicks.
And that scared me because I didn't really know what these guys were talking about.
All right, well, then we will move on to my game, The 13th Doll, which is a little more indie than, I mean, I'm sure Brian's pretty indie anyway, but this one's probably a little more obscure. So, The 13th Doll is the second sequel to the original game, The Seventh Guest, which was released in, I don't even remember, a long time ago, 1993. So the original game came out in 1993. This was actually the it was one of the killer apps kind of things, or the system sellers of the CD drive. So that's how old it is. When CD drives first came to PCs, this game came out. Or the original game, Seventh Guest, came out, and yeah, kind of set the standard for this is what CD games will be able to do. And it was 2 discs, and it was pretty amazing for its time. It doesn't quite hold up anymore. It is kind of, the animations are kind of janky and whatnot, but anyway, the original game follows the story of there was this guy. His name was Stauf. He was a criminal. He robbed a couple grocery stores and gas stations, and that was about it until one day where he murders a woman for her purse. That night, he has a vision of a doll. He then carves the doll, goes into town, sells it. It ends up being popular, and he ends up having another vision for another toy, makes that toy, creates this huge toy kind of franchise or whatever, becomes super rich, and then has one final vision of creating this messed up house, and that's what he does. And you, the main character, wake up in the house after an incident, and you're not quite sure what happened or why you're there, but you can see ghosts in the house, basically. So you can see ghosts of the past. You can see what happened to these 6 individuals who one time went to this guy's house, and then you need to figure out, what happened to these people and everything. So it's a point and click adventure. You go through the house, you come up to a puzzle, you solve the puzzle, you get a little bit more story, you progress to a different part of the house, same thing, that sort of thing. And the puzzles are really kind of all over the place, so there's a lot of variety in the kind of puzzles you're going to solve. Some of them are going to be, like one of them is you have to fit, I think it's 9 bishops or 9 queen, or no, I think it's like 8 bishops on a chessboard in such a way that they can't kill each other. Other puzzles would be like maybe rotating a clock so that it sets a certain time or something, or getting twisting bones or something to kind of create like one of those old pipe dream type games, or navigating a labyrinth in the basement. So you have all these puzzles that you have to do to get this story, and you move through and kind of see what happens. The first game was very successful. It was very highly rated. The second game, not as highly rated. The guy who created the first game created a third game, but from what I saw, it only sold 20-something copies in North America. So, I mean, that obviously is a tremendous failure. But then the game franchise kind of died. Well, come the 2000s, and I guess it was around maybe 2014, 15, around then or so, and a group of people that really, really enjoyed the original game wanted to create a proper sequel. And so they got together, they kickstarted it, and came together and they made this game, and they did it very much in this style of the original game. So they went through the old maps, they built the house basically the same way. They did kind of the cheesy green screen over the CG backgrounds. So they really leaned into kind of the camp of the original game. and they wanted to make it as accurate to that feel as possible. Other than that, it's basically almost exactly the same. The story is obviously an updated version. You're playing, I think, something like 20 years after the initial incident, and you're back in the house, and you have to figure out what's going on again. Something is, it's somehow tied to this 13th doll, because Stauf was making these dolls. Oh, and the dolls, of course, were making children sick, so the children were dying. So he had some sort of demonic pact going on there. But yeah, you're trying to figure out the mystery of these dolls, and they've for the most part they allow you to play the same way you played the original. You click on a corridor, the camera moves down the corridor. You click to the left, the camera shifts to the left. So you can do that, but they've also allowed it that you can have full 3D motion in the mansion as well. Now that we have better graphics and all these things have been updated. So you can either kind of play it in a newer way where you can fully explore it, or you can play it in the older way with kind of the pre-rendered movement and you just kind of look around the room. But yeah, other than that, it's very similar, I guess, to Professor Layton in terms of the way puzzles are. Like, as there's a large variety of different kinds of puzzles. Maybe stacking things or trying to get things of equal weight or something like that. But also, it's relatively cheap. It's on Steam. It's gotten really good reviews. The what do we call them? The reviews have been mostly positive, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, definitely worth checking out, and it's relatively cheap. So
When did you say
questions.
was the original game?
The original was 1993.
I was thinking that Capcom saw that and say, let's make it an action game, put zombies in it, and call it Resident Evil.
Oh, okay. I was thinking House of the Dead, but similar idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it
Well, at
does.
first, yeah.
Yeah. The
I saw
house.
the trailer and I got a bit scared because it really looked like Mist. And
Well,
Mist was
actually,
really
okay.
hard.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is Myst was another one of those games that was the early sellers of the CD-ROM. And so I think it was Seventh Guest, Myst, and there was a third one, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But this has a lot in common with Myst. If you enjoyed the original Myst, you're probably going to enjoy this. And it's similar to Myst in that games now really spell things out for you and just what you need to do, and older games did not. And so there are a lot of times where in the original game, if you might not even know what you're supposed to do for the puzzle, let alone how to solve it. For instance, I think one of the last puzzles in the original is there's a model house, and you have to click on windows, and as you click on the windows, they'll light up in sequence, but you have to figure out what sequence you need to click on them to get them to light up in the right sequence, and then you move on to the next tier of the house. But they don't tell you exactly what clicking on a window, how that's going to affect the other windows, and they don't exactly tell you what windows need to be turned on. So you're just kind of like, I'm just going to click randomly for the next half hour until it works out.
Yeah, very Mist-like then.
Yeah. Myst was like that too, where I remember there was one part where you have to get a combination to open a door, and
It's very complex.
yeah, and you could go through and you could find the combination, but you'd find like one number at a time, and then you had to figure out what sequence they were in, and it was one of those things where they were scattered all over the island, and it was actually literally just faster to sit there and just try every possible combination until it worked. That was actually the faster solution. It was
Please
brute force.
remind our younger audience that at the time, you couldn't just go and Google walkthrough of Mist or walkthrough of 13 doors.
Oh yeah.
No, you couldn't. There was no play walkthrough or anything like this. So,
Yeah,
good luck. You're on your own.
unless you had some kind of like GamePro magazine or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I remember they would release books, and you could go to the library, or they would have these books, and it would just have cheat codes or solutions to certain puzzles, and you would just have to look through,
Yeah,
index
but
cards to figure
half
out
of
which
them
one had
wouldn't
your gun.
work.
Yeah, because for you, it'd work for me because we were in the North American region, and they were designed
Yeah.
for us. But one thing the Seventh Guest did, I don't know if the 13th doll does this, but the Seventh Guest had a thing where in the library, there was a library in the house, and if you go there, you click on a certain book, and they'll give you a hint as to how to solve the next puzzle. And If you click on it again, it'll give you another hint.
Okay.
And if you click on it a third time, what it'll do is it'll solve the puzzle for you, but it will not play the video sequence or the movie sequence afterwards. So you miss that part of the story. So you can progress, but you're going to be missing out on things. So I don't know if the 13th doll has that feature or not. But yeah, everything else is pretty much spot on. The house is basically the same. It's got the really kind of early 90s 3D graphics, kind of, you know, pre-Toy Story, badly rendered, almost no textures on anything kind of thing. And even the little skeletal hand, you know, doing the, you know, come hither, you know, telling you can go down that hallway, or no, you know, you can't click here. You know, they just, everything is spot on. So if you were a fan of the original, definitely give it a look. If you were not a fan of the original, still worth maybe watching a couple playthroughs or whatnot. However, I would say if you did not play the original, it will be hard to go back and play, because not just the puzzles. I mean, you can look those up now, but just, you know, something like 10 frames per second when moving down corridors, and you know, videos being at, I don't even know how low of a resolution, maybe like 100p or something like that, you know. Just very painful to watch. So definitely the new one moves a lot smoother. So. And it came out the day before Halloween, 2019. So
Nice touch.
yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's my favorite part is just the fact that this is a fan-made game. So it is an unofficial sequel. They probably would consider it official, except I don't think the original group still exists anymore. But I just think that's really cool that a bunch of people that were really big fans of this game came together and they said, you know what, we want to make a new one. Let's write out the script. Let's hire a couple programmers to just kind of make it. Let's make it as accurate as possible. We're gonna act ourselves in it, because, you know, we're not necessarily professional actors, so we still have that kind of cheesy delivery. You know, just that real over the top campiness. So very spot on as far as spiritual successors go. So, Phil, any questions? You kind of have the I don't really have anything to say face.
Yeah, man. I didn't hear about it at the time, and I've not heard about it now. And yeah, the graphics do look very much like they do remind me of like a early Doom type as you're walking down those
Not quite
corridors.
that bad.
It reminds you.
Early Doom.
No, it does. Like, wait, it's the one where you're just going straight down the wall block on both sides, just like
yeah, everything's square. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's squared and blocked off. All right. Well, if you guys have nothing else to say, I got some news for us.